Welcome, everybody. This is Tony Mary with ETHOSystems. Joining us today, we have Vincent Pate with Paperless Environments. Today, we're going to be reviewing the OCR functionality Paperless Environments has released for your Sage Paperless Construction solution. Today, we are going to be monitoring the chat box in an effort to keep everybody's background noise to a minimum so we can have this recording for the future. So at any point, should you have questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat. Should we have any time at the end, we will do a live Q&A session. For now, Vincent, I'll turn it over to you, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. So let me go through a couple quick slides here, and just a quick heads up. I know we have this scheduled for, I think, about an hour, but this presentation will not take anywhere close to that long. The beauty about what we're going to talk about today is that it's a very integrated, very simple solution, and so there isn't a whole lot to show, which is a good thing. So let's get going right away. Sage Paperless Construction now has OCR capabilities built right into the software. Due to some particularities with Sage, right now the solution is available through Ethos that you can get from them. And today we're going to discuss exactly what that is. Now, first, as starters, in case you happen to show up here and you're not sure what the acronym OCR stands for, it means Optical Character Recognition. That is a tool that's been around for about 20 years now, maybe even a little longer. But in that time, it has really evolved in what it can do and how it can work. So in our system, what we're doing is we're going to be automatically scanning and reading your images, starting with invoices, although we also have some other document types coming in the future. But starting with invoices, we're going to scan your invoice, grab relevant information off of it, and then pass it into Sage Paperless Construction coded for you so that you can save time, human error, and money at the end of the day. So how does that work? As I said, OCR technology has changed over time. The old way, the original way OCR was designed was very similar to kind of what you're seeing here on the screen, on the screenshot, with little rubber bands around each section of an invoice or a document saying, we expect to find words here or numbers here, and from there, grab those numbers and move them over. That worked great if you had forms that never changed, that were perfectly clear and always were the same, which I said twice, but that's the key piece. What is an issue is if anything is moved over even slightly, all of a sudden you get missing characters because they weren't within the bounds, or straight up can't find it at all because the format changed. With the OCR technology we're going to be talking about today, it's dynamic and it scans your invoice and it looks for keywords like invoice number, invoice date, INV date, date, total, balance due, PO, purchase order, order number, you name it. It runs through and it searches for synonyms or words and then finds the data next to it, which means if you have a vendor that has 3 different formats, it should find it in all 3 formats without having to create a template for each one. It also means we can pull up your vendors right out of your Sage database to hunt for those words on the document itself. And that's how we determine who the vendor is. We actually take your vendor list out of Sage, and if it happens to be Insulation Inc. or whatever this says, sorry, that's a bad image, it will search for that and look for the address as a confirmation if need be. That's OCR, that's the technology we're talking about today, and specifically the one we're using in Sage Paperless Construction is built directly into the AP flow queues you're using today or thinking about using tomorrow if you happen to not be a Sage Paperless customer yet. That means no recreation of your work processes. You just activate OCR onto one or more queues that you're already using, or create new ones if you prefer, and any invoices that get dropped into there will automatically be read and pulled the information off of. Now, obviously we're talking about an automated solution, and that means sometimes it will encounter issues. The invoice is all crumpled, and so it thinks that a line on there is a 1 instead of a crease. You know, it could have a situation where the invoice itself doesn't have any keywords around the invoice number. It's just a big number plopped in the middle of the page with nothing to indicate that's what it is. And so you need to train it. our system allows for on-the-fly training right there from the screens that you're already working on, and you can then tell it, oh no, here's where it's supposed to be, and then the system learns. Very great way to make sure that as you use the software over time, things get better and better. Lastly, there are the same way you're bringing in documents. As I mentioned, they're built right into the queues that you're already using, which means you can still email your invoices to you, you can scan them in, you can drag and drop them in, all the same ways you're used to today. Or if you didn't realize that you can email in invoices and have them come directly into Paperless, we have that ability. It came out about a year ago, and the OCR works with that very well. That last bullet point is kind of a teaser. Today, we're talking invoices only, but we actually are very close to releasing this for AP checks as our next step. So when you do your AP check stub batch, you can sign them and then scan them back in the system, and the OCR will read those. And then we're going to go on from there. I think the next one we'll be working on would be certificates of insurance. But the idea is the OCR will start expanding over time to more and more document types. And if you buy the software, you don't have to keep buying it again for each document type. You just need to do a little bit of implementation to get it set up. So let's get into the software itself. PowerPoints are fun and all, but let's see it live in action. So as I said, it's built right into your AP flow queues that are in Paperless today. So that's where I'm going to head right now. I'm using Sage 100 Contractor as my database of record. It works with 100, it works with 300, it works with Intact, and it works with anything our system ever will work for, because we're using the fields and the tables built right into Sage Paperless. So there's no worry about your accounting system, even if you change it in the future to one of Sage's newer pieces that come out. First thing you'll notice is there's some new columns added to the queues, and this is where the OCR picks up. We use a traffic light symbols, so red light, green light, yellow light. Yellow light means it's still processing, and when you drop in the invoices, it'll turn yellow first. From there, it mostly will turn green because the system is pretty accurate and it gets more accurate over time. But every once in a while, you'll get a red. As I said, there could be different reasons why something will turn red. It could have just not found the invoice number, or it thinks that a certain number doesn't feel right, and so to flag it. And so anything red means, hey, take a look at me, I didn't read it properly. But green means it did. And so this Northwest Concrete invoice, when I go and open it up right here for the first time ever, it's already going to be coded for me. Now, right now, we're recommending for most people, we start with what we call the Invoice Starter Pack. The Invoice Starter Pack handles all the header information. So the only thing you have to do as an AP processor is put in the human element and then hit route. And that means it's going to check for your vendor, match it to your database, get the invoice number. It's going to get the date, which of course then dictates the due date and discount date based on your settings. It's going to grab the total, and if you want it to, it's an optional field we can add for no extra charge. We can add the purchase order. The purchase order today is just being dropped in this field, so you can copy and paste it into the quick list. But we're actually going to be changing the software here in a couple months. I don't have an exact date, but we're going to be making to where if you do have a purchase order on there, it'll just automatically bring up that quick list for you. So it just takes you right into the quick list with everything selected, and you just remove what's not happening on this particular invoice. So that change will be coming very shortly for OCR only users. As I said, this is how it pulls up. Let's go grab another example just so we can see it in action one more time. And that's kind of a boring invoice. Let's just grab this Barth Electric one here. You open it up. And first off, it told me this is a duplicate. We still check for duplicates in the system. So even if you scan it in 2 or 3 times by accident, it'll pop up and let you know it's a duplicate right away. And so in this case, I have to put in a C to make sure I can move forward with it, because that's a correction on here. But we're checking for duplicates the same way it's always had. But as I said, here it's going to grab all that information right off the invoice for us. And then you as a AP processor just need to do the human element. Okay, it's for trap and motel job, hit route and go. That's as simple as that, grabbing the information and working from there. Now, if there was any issues, as I mentioned, there could be a potential issue found on it, and it'll turn red if that's the case. You just go ahead and double click on this, and it will open up in our browser to, oh, sorry, that's open up on my other monitor. And you'll bring up, and it'll show you exactly what it found. And so you can even see where it's highlighted. It found the invoice number, it found the invoice date, it found the purchase order, it found the balance due, and Barth Electric's already highlighted as well. If something was a mistake, let's say invoice number was actually, you want the invoice date to be this date here. Just say no, highlight the section you want, hit save. After you've done that a couple times, the system goes, oh, you were serious. That wasn't a one-off. This is a common theme. Let's go ahead and make that be the new place to look for going forward. So you do have to do it a couple times to make sure the system doesn't think it's a one-off. But once it does, it will then start grabbing that new location. Same thing for this purchase order number. Right now it says your PO number, which is probably what you want. But what if you wanted their PO number instead? Just highlight it on that, select that piece, and hit save. Simple as that. The OCR technology can also be expanded to other fields as needed, but keep in mind anything it reads, it's going to be translated as is. So if you want it to grab a sales rep and you want that to go to a field on the system, make sure that what's in AP Flow is matching exactly what's on the invoice, and everything will work exactly how you want it to work. And so with that, as I said, is not a very long presentation today. So I'm going to flip back over here and tell you, if you have any information that you want to go above and beyond what we just learned today, reach out to ETHOSystems. There's their email address and phone number if you don't already have it handy. And Ethos can absolutely get you quoted out, set up any live demos. It's going to be very similar to what we just saw today, but we can absolutely answer any questions that go and pop up, or if you have any very specific scenarios you're concerned about with some of your invoices or vendors, we can talk through that as well.